I'm Hillary Meister. Welcome to Filmmakers. Tonight my guest is Doug Torda, who's originally from Jacksonville and has lived in Orlando for about 12 years. Doug works as a bank supervisor here in Orlando, and he's been involved with films for about, what, 6 years?
About 6 years.
What got you interested in films?
Well, some of my friends in high school, we just got together and decided, one of us bought a camera and we just started using it as best we could. And we found a sponsor in high school and formed a club called the Lake Howell Film Club. And for the most part, it was touch and go, learn as we went. And we tried to do everything we could.
How long did the club go on in the school?
Well, we started it when we were juniors, so I went through junior and senior years of high school. It was mostly after school. We didn't get any class time or anything like that. Some of the people in the club were in the audiovisual section, so we got some help from the audiovisual department. But for the most part, it was using our own equipment and learning as we went.
Do you know if the club is still in existence today?
The club still exists at the school, but we don't really know anything as to what's going on with it.
About how many films would you say that you and the club made?
Altogether, during the 2 years, we made about 6 or 7 films that I can recall. It's been about 4.5, 5 years ago now since I was last in that club.
Did you find you were making more films and studying at that time?
No, not really. All of us were more interested in school than just films, but towards the end of the senior year, the films were becoming very important because none of us wanted to do anything as far as school was concerned.
How did it affect the rest of the school?
Well, a lot of the school didn't even know about us until our second or third film. And then we got some support from the school, and we had a few nights where we showed films in the school auditorium and charged admission and developed some money for our club. But for the most part, everybody that knew about us was real excited about the work we were doing.
Did you get class credit or anything like that?
We had this junior year, I can't remember which year it was for sure, they did have a class for filmmakers, and we did get credit for half a semester. So that was an added benefit to it. It worked out well.
Do you feel that film should probably be introduced a lot more into high schools than it is?
I think it's important as far as film and video, because as the world changes more and more to getting our information from those areas, it's very important that they know how it is produced and what to look for to know whether or not you're really watching a quality program or not.
Why don't you tell us about the first film that we're going to see, Around the Pool in 80 Laps?
Around the Pool in 80 Laps was our first attempt at still animation where we moved people instead of little dolls or pictures. And it was really an interesting project because we learned about continuality or continuity or whatever, and because when we finally did show the film at the end, we noticed that there was a gentleman that lived next door who kept coming out of his garage, and you'll see him for one frame and then he's gone. And we never noticed it. It's one of those kind of things that you don't notice until it's too late. And it was quite interesting. We got to do pretty much what we wanted as we went along. And we learned quite a bit about animation using still frame and slow motion and that type of thing. It was a great learning experience.
That was the first film in the pixelation category.
Right. It was one of the very first films we did out also. And it was quite a learning experience.
How long did it take you to film it?
As I recall, it took about 3.5 weeks.
3.5 weeks? And
Right.
it's about a 4-minute film?
Right. But mostly our problems for time were because of trying to get it the same light, in the afternoon, and school also, and of course the infamous summer rains caused us problems, so we had to stop. But it was quite interesting. We got to do quite a few things and some interesting special effects. And we all enjoyed it a great deal and learned a lot.
Great. Well, let's take a look at it. Well, that was quite a quick-paced movie.
It does run along very fast,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing we had to learn to control to keep it also running smooth. That's the problem that we had.
Mm-hmm. How many people did you have actually running the camera that weren't in the film?
Well, there was only 2 cameramen, as I recall. I can't remember for sure, but it was very few cameramen. It was mostly a lot of us moving things around.
One camera?
Yeah, we learned to use rulers very well,
Mm-hmm.
moving things along.
What type of camera did you use?
I don't remember. It was a Super 8 camera, but I don't recall
Mm-hmm.
which one we used. We had 3 or 4 that we used off and on during the thing. I don't remember.
Well, let's talk about the next film we're going to see called Slang of the 20s and 30s. What's this one about?
Well, it started out, that's what we actually earned some credit on in another class, a project that we had due for this junior year class project. And we had to do a project about slang of another period of time other than our present period. And we chose the 20s and 30s, and a lot of the groups were making real detailed outfits and such, so we decided we'd do our thing, and we made a cutout animation with it. And it got quite a response, and towards the end of the film, you'll notice that there are quite a few things going in and out of some of the ears in the film, and that was frustration from the long periods of time that it takes to do, piece by piece animation such as that. It was interesting.
How long did it take?
It took about, as I recall, about 2 weeks to complete that.
2 weeks?
Working in the evenings and afternoons. And our biggest hang-up for time in that, though, was light bulbs. They kept burning out, and you can't get them at night. But it was really an enjoyable thing to do, and we learned quite a bit in that film. And we also learned how many mouths it takes to do a smooth motion, and that's a lot more than any of us expected. We started off with 4 different shaped mouths, and by the end, I believe we had 16 to run in a series. So it was quite interesting.
How many people worked on that one?
There was 5 of us that worked on that. It was low budget, too. We used a piece of poster board and about 20 cents worth of paper.
Well, let's take a look at that one. Well, that looked like a fun film to make.
It was, especially the part with the things coming out of the ears, and planes and various things. It was quite a lot of fun.
I can imagine it can be pretty frustrating too.
We got a great reaction out of it from the class too. It was worthwhile for the time and effort.
I'm sure you got an A on that one.
No, we sure didn't.
Well, the next film we're going to see is another cutout type film, James Bond.
Right. James Bond had a lot of people working on it. I'd say at one point we had at least 20 people working on it. And everybody decided they were going to design their own thing. And at one point, the car that we used was finally my design, which I'm not proud of. But there was, at one point we had 6 different cars that we were arguing over which one should we use. And it caused some interesting fights, including chairs being thrown around the room and things like that. But I fortunately finally won out. I think mine was the best of the cars, but it's still not the greatest. But it was a very interesting film. We learned, it was after we made Slang of the 20s, and we knew more about using pieces of pieces of paper and such cutout animation. We knew a lot more, so it turned out to be much better than Slang of the 20s. And hopefully we're working on more, remake of it, or not a remake of that, but more into James Bond, and hopefully it'll be good.
How long did that one take?
It took a long time. It took about a month or so, as I recall. It took quite a while.
Uh-huh. Was this another class project or just something?
It was something we did during one of our during the class that we took.
Yeah. What other films have you made besides the 3 that we've shown?
Well, I also made another movie which was called News at 6. I don't know if y'all are going to present that at any time, but it was a actual acting, and it was also one of those productions for class, and that was the most exciting of all the films that I worked on, because you actually got to act in it, and it wasn't little pieces of paper you were moving or that type of thing. It was very interesting, and we tried a lot of puns that no one figured out, but it was worthwhile also.
Did you mainly use just one camera all the time for all your animated work?
Right, we did use just one camera.
No other special equipment or anything?
No, occasionally we'd use a strange light bulb or such, but get a funny color, but other than that it was strictly the one camera using single action.
What about an animation stand? Did you shoot it on that or a copy stand?
For the first part, for the most
On the
part, we
floor?
used the floor on a larger piece of white poster board. That's the way we did most of it. And James Bond, we used a colored background.
Okay, let's take a look at that one. Well, that was a good sandwich. I tell you, I'm hungry right now.
I tell you, Cuban sandwiches are really popular anymore.
I want to ask you about what you think about video. You've done all this film work, and now that they're introducing video much more into high school these days, what do you think about that?
Well, the experiences I had with video in high school when I was going were pretty much simply they'd bring a video recorder in and they'd show something. And slowly they did a little bit of just filming people in live action. And some of the experiences I had more recently working with some of the advertising department at the bank, we dealt with using video to interview people. And the beauty of that is that video you can record for long periods of time, and if you don't like it, you can erase it and start again. And that has proven to be very interesting and worked out real well. It's a lot cheaper than developing film, which can really turn into a humongous expense. And the only problem that I have dealt with is in the editing of video, which is rather difficult. But so far, as far as I can see, video is really good, and I'd like to see them really use it more in schools. It's not good for animation and such that I've seen, but as far as I can tell, I think it's going to be the best way for live action type films.
So you think the future of film lies more in video?
Certain parts of film. You know, you couldn't, obviously I don't think you could do video animation, or I haven't seen any.
They sure can nowadays, a computer.
I haven't seen any, but you know, if it's possible, I'm sure it's going to turn out to be very good, and anything else they've done electronically, they get better and better with. But I think it's going to be excellent, and that is the way to go, I feel. It's a lot cheaper. I don't think Kodak would like that comment, but it is cheaper
That's
in the
true.
long run.
I don't think a lot of our filmmakers would like that comment. Well, thanks, Doug, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for
And
putting
I
up
hope
with me.
all your projects turn into more film projects than video. So until next week, we'll see you later.